Welcome to ZombieChickenTaco.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make your level a little more detailed with an explosion that's taking out your wall. And what I like you to do is hit the L key, which will bring up your layers, and hide the all. This is the prefab that you can download from the website. Unhide the wall cock. This is essentially your wall, your basic starting piece of geometry. Shift left clicking on both sides of the face and choosing a texture. I'm going to put one different texture on each side of the face. With that done, now we're going to cut this up quite a bit by hitting Control right click once and then twice will give you points, and then Shift Enter will cut that. Now we're going to do that quite a few times here, and to show you what that looks like, we're going to have a pretty good grid pattern of blocks here. This is your destructive area. Why do we do that? Well, let's take a look at the next step. The next step is we're going to remove a few pieces. With these pieces removed, we can actually come in and start shaping the hole in which we want to let the players walk through. And now you can do this with, you can make it so it's like almost a window on the wall, a portal to the wall where you don't have to walk through it, but make it essentially anything you want at this point. Let's skip ahead here. After hitting the E key and adjusting it, I've come to this pattern right here. This is what I'm going to use for my wall. Looks fairly nice. It's a nice blown out wall. I don't have the insides textured, so we're going to do that in the next step by hit Control Shift and left click and select just the faces of all of those pieces. With those selected, we're going to texture them by Shift left clicking. Select your texture, and we're going to texture the inside of that wall, as you can see here in my video. And finally, last but not least, we're going to make sure everything is detailed within this. Everything through here, I'm going to select it all by holding the Shift, left clicking, and then just dragging and sweeping your mouse across it. Right click on the geometry and go to make the detail. Now you'll notice that the texture is now a green color. What that does is it keeps the viz from rendering, as covered before in my previous tutorials. With that done, I'm going to freeze it by hitting spacebar a couple times with that selected, so now I can't select that any further. We're going to jump on to the next part of the wall. That would be your frame layer. The frame layer, you start off with a cock brush, the same size as the previous, the wall. And then we're going to cut it up a little bit using the same Control Shift to cut the block, and Shift Enter. We'll break that up, again covered in the original tutorials. And with those done, we're going to take a look at the top and the bottom. As you can see, here's the top. Oops. The top is up here in the top area. We will eventually get rid of that. We have, and I'm going to hide this overlayer. Then we have the bottom. Once we've done that, we're going to flip this to the side. You probably want to bring that in just a little bit. As you can see, what I've done here is I brought that in by 1 unit. And then we're going to go on to, once we got the board and the width done, we're going to go on and we're going to make the ribs of this. The ribs are fairly squared off with 2x4s. So now that I've got the ribbing done in my framework, and that's just by manipulating your brushes and getting a kind of an equal layout of the frame. It doesn't have to be exact. It really depends on. Okay, once we got our frames here, we're going to texture the frame. We're only going to texture the frames that the sides that are going to be seen. Now notice how everything was created in cock. Now it's going to be all cock on the edges, cock on the inside, and the tops and bottoms. But we're texturing everything we can see. With that textured, we're going to go up to clipping it and cleaning it. Notice how that I only have a few boards here, but if I overlay my detail, that's the framework. Looks like it's been cut out and blown out there. With that detail done on the clipping and cleaning layer, step 6, we're going to go on to step 7. We're going to select all of them, and we're going to right click them and go to weapon clip. That's what I do. The detail on the previous one, weapon clip on this one, because that way the bullets will bounce off of them, but you can go through them. You don't get caught and hung up on these little extra pieces. Now with that done, well, we got to work on the tricky part. The tricky part is the blast layer. The blast layer, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the original wall that we had before, which is up here on the detail layers. Let's show you that here in the detail layer 7. You're going to copy everything that you've created with Control C, and then you're going to come over the make a new layer, and you call it the blast layer. I cut mine up into layers so it's easy to select and move between things, and then once it's done I put it all together in one single layer so it's easy to select that entire area. A little bit harder to do any final changes after that, but you'll get the hang of it after time. So for the blast layer, we're going to hit the Control V and we're going to paste that there, and then we're going to turn it to all no draw decal. That's under textures, usage, tools, and if you look for that green looking one, or greenish yellow, yeah, it's yellow, it's going to be no draw decal. The reason for that is it works a little bit differently than the cock, and because we already have cock in that same area, no sense in duplicating it. We're going to call it no draw decal because that's what we're doing. We're applying a decal to it. Then we're going to create a template burn. The template burn is the same size of brush as the 128 by 128. Select the surface. Let's do this to show you what it looks like when you first apply it. You got 4 of them here. I'm going to select that face by hitting Control Shift left click, and then you're going to hit S, and that's going to bring up your surface inspector, and you're going to hit the fit key. What that does is that puts that all the way out there and stretches that all the way out to fit as if that was meant to be there just the way it is. With that selected, we're going to go on to applying the burn texture, as you can see here. To do this with a no draw decal, you're going to shift left click and select all the faces that you're going to be creating the decal onto, and then all you're going to do is middle mouse click on one or the other of these. Now what that does is it maps it onto everything you have there. Now this is what happens if you don't do it this way and you try to manually do it. Let's show you what happens when you try to fit all of these pieces. You'll notice it doesn't like to work correctly. You get some sort of spotted leopard wall, and that's not the look we're looking for. Hence, that's why we create the one solid piece. This solid piece tells us exactly how it's going to map. Select all of them, middle mouse click on your main texture that you want it to fit, and lo and behold, you get the burn texture. Now if you notice here, you have the cock or the no draw detail just like the cock in between. That's fine. You can always change that in your filter under cocking or no draw decal are the two that you'd use. Let's go on to the next step. Once you've got that, we're going to burn the insides. Burning the insides is selecting all of these insides, and we're going to put a texture on it. But before we do that, we actually have to move the texture or all the brushes out. Select all brushes. This might be a little bit better place for it. What happens is the texture maps, depending on the size of the texture, it maps according to this grid. This corner and that corner are the top 2 grids that you're going to use. You move this midway, and then you apply the texture to it, to all the inside pieces, and you'll get a little bit better burning and fading if you use more center of the decal on the mapping aspect ratio of the grid or the graph. And then once you've done that, you want to return the piece back to its original position, and then select all of the pieces, right click and go to non-colliding. Because it's a decal, you don't want it to collide. The collisions happen on the base and the blast. It should look something like that. Now I've applied it to both sides of the scene, as you can see, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, submit on the forum and I'll try not to answer them. I will try to answer them. Yeah, that's it. Talk to you guys later. Blow it out your ass.